Great. Everyone's just coming in from the waiting room right now, so we'll give it just another minute to get everyone's computers linked up. As you come into the screen, you should be muted. And if you're not, just make sure to go ahead and mute yourself. All right, excellent. If any new folks come as we go, we'll get started from there. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sarah Curry. I am the owner of Blaze Yoga and Fitness in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. A lot of you I know, and a lot of you I know, or I have connected to knowing you through the other local participating studios that are also on this call. I have a really short presentation about the training, so I'll just give you the explanation of how the training is formatted. I've gotten a few questions from folks already in advance. I'll answer those questions. And then once we get to the end of it all, we can open it up for your personal question and answer. And hopefully we'll get to all of the questions that you have tonight. So let's get started since we're all on time. So first big question is why this training? You know, when it came to planning a teacher training, Luca, I see that you're, Sopal, I see you're joining us online. When it came to planning this training, really there is no training that exists that trains people to teach all of the classes that we teach here at Hybrid Hot Yoga and Fitness Studios. And what I found after about 20 years of working in the field is that more often than not, as I was bringing folks on to the studio, I had to spend a tremendous amount of time detraining and retraining teachers. And so we've spent the last 5 or 6 years planning a training that could help people learn how to teach these particular set of skills that we use here at our studio. In particular, skills in the areas of fitness, mobility, strength, and yoga. And we all know that there is no one modality or one particular type of movement that is the perfect movement for people. And that's why understanding all of these different facets makes us better at all of those different things. In my appreciation of yoga and mindfulness practices, if you understand the core fundamentals of how movement modalities and inputs affect the human body, then you can utilize that to teach whatever type of discipline that you really love and feels authentic to you. The training will cover, well, I'll show you guys the slide on core competencies for this training next, but all of the core competencies fall into 5 main categories. So we're looking at anatomy, physiology, and biomechanics. So the understanding of the human body, how it works. That's one chunk of the information. The second aspect, and perhaps one of the most important, is the role of movement in human health and life satisfaction. So as we start to understand how these inputs affect people, it makes us a lot easier for us to choose and select activities and exercises so that we can improve people's lives. The second facet of this training has to do with understanding core mobility, yoga, strength, and fitness poses, exercises, and applications. So this will be the part where you actually learn poses and traditional strength training exercises, or how to use resistance training as an aspect of building bone density. The fourth chunk of content and information has to do with how to build and to teach amazing classes and programs. So we're talking about everything from creating your own classes or creating like a strength building program to the actual skills of teaching and coaching and delivering cues or creating an environment of trust. And the final area that the competencies fall under has to do with best practices. So this is everywhere from like having a trauma-informed approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion in your studio to, you know, how to market yourself and how to build trust in your community. So I'm going to put the core competencies slide up on the screen here. I'm not going to read it to you, and we're not going to wait for you guys all to read it, but this will be a good time to just take a screenshot of this so that you can look through all of these things in your own time. I'll just chit chat for a while you guys grab your phone or take a screenshot on your computer. This meeting is also being recorded, so you have the opportunity to go back and pause it on your own time at a later date. This really has to do with understanding the body, understanding the moves, understanding how they feel inside of your body, and learning how to use them in a way that impacts people's lives positively. All right. So the intent would be that you could leave this training and utilize these skills to be able to teach the types of disciplines that you want to teach. So if you're a mad weightlifting buff and you just want to teach strength training classes, you actually can't teach strength well if you don't understand mobility, range of motion, stretching, and flexibility. And the same goes for if you just want to be an original hot yoga teacher. If you don't know anything about what stretching does to the body or how important strength is, it's very difficult to teach an educated class. Now, I want to take a second here to really just hone in on, if you're coming to us from a studio that wants you to learn a script and come back and recite it for the next 20 years, this is the wrong training. This is not the place that you want to be. I've worked in that field for a long time. When we formed the original Hot Yoga Association, to take control out of Bikram Chowdhury's hands and certify those trainings, I was one of the team that rewrote their dialogue or standardized instruction. And I understand the value of having that, but I'm not the person to teach that. If you want to memorize a script, there's definitely plenty of teacher trainings out there that you could go and memorize it and recite it. But what I will do is teach you how to teach those postures and teach you how to develop your own words to use in different situations. So in terms of how to apply this, we will go over yoga concepts and how to build and teach a yoga class, whether it be an original hot class, a therapeutic hatha class, a fitness type of a flow or a vinyasa class, as well as different levels and varieties of fitness trainings from high intensity to low intensity to strength training and more. And if you're like a killer Zumba teacher, you want to teach like a heavy beats booty shake and dance class, this information is going to help you to do that a lot better so that you can find your own voice in the field of fitness and yoga and teach the type of class that's authentic to you. So the structure of the training, there are 4 in-person intensive sessions. These are all take place at my studio in Blaze Yoga and Fitness in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And what you'll notice from these is that the first weekend intensive is actually a 5-day intensive. So the kickoff, that is where a big bulk of the learning will start. By the end of the training, that first weekend of training, you will begin learning how to teach and putting those skills to practice. But you'll notice that the other teacher trainings, the other weekend trainings are all based around your calendar so that you're home in time for Halloween. The last in-person is the week before Thanksgiving. There are no in-person trainings and only 2 virtual trainings in the month of December. And then that final weekend in January, the 19th through the 21st, that's the practical application and teaching, which you'll get your opportunity to teach your first public classes. So a sample of what a weekend schedule looks like, this would be a regular 3-day weekend schedule, would look something like taking the first class of the day at 9 a.m. We'll take a break from 10:30 to 12. So there'll always be a 90-minute lunch and shower break, followed by a lecture from 12 to 5. So you can see that we'll take each weekend a variety of different classes. So you'll have an opportunity to see the skills that we're working on that particular weekend in different situations and venues. Now, there will be weekends where the schedule might look like having a lecture from 9 to 11 on Friday, so that we could take a noon class or something like that. On one of the Fridays, we're going to take the 4:30 p.m. class. So the schedule would shift around, and lecture that day would be, for example, from 2 to 6 p.m. But one of the key components of building a cult is sleep deprivation. So there will be no late nights. There will be no watching movies until 4 o'clock in the morning or lectures until 12 p.m. I know how important sleep is to learning and to recovery. So you'll be home in time for dinner or back to your hotel in time for dinner and able to get a good night's sleep, or even go out to dinner with friends on the nights that you're here, because that's a better way to learn than just shoving stuff down your throat. So each of the weekends, the in-person weekends, have a different focus. I would like to say that the first weekend is the human genome weekend. This is where we'll get into all the anatomy and physiology and the biology and biomechanics and stuff of the human body, how it works, and how fitness and yoga and stretching mobility impacts us, how movement helps to improve our wellness. That's the human genome weekend. What are we coded for? How do we use our bodies? And how does what we're doing in these classes that we love so much impact our bodies? The second weekend is the strength weekend. So that will be really focused on building and maintaining strength, as well as cardiovascular fitness and more. The third weekend is our mobility weekend, including yoga, flexibility, stretching, and all of those things. And then the fourth weekend is where we'll put our teaching skills and practical application to work. Now, all of these weekends will include all of those things, but the generalized focus on each one will be that. Whoops. Then to flesh out the training, so we have more time for education without pulling you out of your life for weeks on end, will come in the form of virtual live lectures. So these lectures are on Thursday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. And if you look at the schedule here, you'll see we stop the virtual live lectures 2 weeks before Christmas and 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. There's no lecture, the week of New Year's Eve, so that you can fit your regular life and the busyness of the holidays into this schedule. To give you a sense of how they'll work, they're going to vary between lectures and then posture clinics. So those clinics may be practice teaching, or they may be like learning techniques. So as an example, if on week 1 of the virtual lectures, we do our muscle hypertrophy lecture, we'll follow that up the next week with learning actual skills and techniques to do basic weightlifting or resistance and strength training exercises. Or if we're doing a lecture 1 week on the neuroscience of yoga and trauma, the following week we'll follow up on teaching yoga poses, maybe a sun salutation or something like that, if that makes sense. I would love to give you a straight list of all of the lectures, but it's going to change based on what comes up for us during the weekends and what we get through. So if on the strength weekend, we don't finish all of our strength building and healthy aging or coaching female athletes, we may push off a lecture so that we can get coaching female athletes in menopause in that next lecture series. So that is going to need to be a little bit in flux. And I know that there are a few folks on here who are currently teaching that can't attend the training, but are interested in some of those lectures. And yes, all of the lectures that are not posture clinics, the posture clinics will be kept within the training group alone. But all of those lectures will be advertised and available for sale to the public as well. So you'll be able to participate in those lives, and all of that information will come out in the fall. In terms of getting ready for the training, this most important step is to block out the time that you need. We all know that if there is a vacuum in our lives where we don't have a responsibility or a boundary set, that something will fill it up. So when you make a decision to do something like this, it's critical to just start step 1 by blocking out the time, all of the lectures, all of the weekend times, and let the people in your life know that this is something that you're doing, that you're going to need their support. Somebody else is going to have to walk the dog or make the dinner, or whatever it very well may be. I had a question prior to this call about whether or not housing accommodations were included in the tuition. No, the tuition is just for the training. I see a couple of questions coming up in the chat. Jalen is here and available to answer those. And if with any of them we don't get to, we'll cover at the end. Please feel free to chat amongst yourself as we go throughout this. So no, housing is not included. The training would definitely be more expensive if we did that. And neither are your meals. So we are definitely not going to feed you. But when you first sign up for the training, what you'll get from us is a Welcome to Portsmouth guide. And that gives you a comprehensive understanding of sort of where to go, what to do, where there's locally good food, the types of grocery stores and restaurants that folks around here attend to, and then what you have for options for housing. So a huge chunk of the people participating are local and will just be driving for the day. And another chunk of the interested folks are from out of town. So if you're from out of town, you're definitely going to need to stay here at the very least Friday and Saturday nights. There are some much more affordable like motels near the traffic circle in Portsmouth. If you're really looking for like a weekend away to live it up, there are some fantastic hotels downtown where you can walk to tons of awesome restaurants. If you don't know Portsmouth very well, it is like the destination place to spend a weekend. So like walk to the coffee shop and get a fresh juice and go out to an awesome dinner. That would be fun. There's great hotels downtown. The one thing I would just let folks know who are interested and already on the Airbnb app is that the Portsmouth housing is a little bit funky when it comes to Airbnb. It's okay, it's not okay, it's okay, it's not okay. There tend to be more listings on VRBO, vacation rentals by owner.com, because that platform fits into the Portsmouth town ordinances better. So that might be another option for folks to look into. So plan your housing. The other question we had was recommended reading. When you sign up, we do recommend a couple of books to just sort of get yourself to wet your whistle. None of those books are required, but if for the folks who are really interested in diving deeper, they are there for you. And as we go through the training, you'll have access to a whole file of information. And one of those things is steadily growing book and resources list. So we definitely have tons of books that we love to get great information that we will give you more information about as you go. In terms of practicing, we have an expectation during the course of the training that you have a home studio to practice at 3 times a week. And the classes that you're taking, our hope is that they are varied, that you're practicing. If you're only a yogi, that you practice some strength training, or if you're only a weightlifter, that you get into yoga classes. And part of our work during this training will be to keep a class log and take reflection on all of those classes so that you can begin to shift the mindset from a student mindset to a teacher mindset, and you can begin to analyze those classes. I mean, one of the things that shifts when you become a teacher is you go from a position of taking the class for the experience to beginning to have it be an opportunity for you learning and growing. Maybe you're going to note things that you don't want to do, or maybe you're going to note things that you'd love to incorporate into your next class. And all of this process will help you to become an analytical practitioner as well. In addition, we expect 60 minutes of self-study per week. That might be reading books or reflecting, going over the materials that we give out. It may also include stuff like prepping classes or practicing teaching. We also have an expectation that you'll practice 60 minutes per week with live bodies. And so that might be, there's a few folks in who are existing teachers, that might be putting the skills that we're working on in the training to use in the classes that you're teaching now. Or it might be getting your partner to participate with you and just help you figure out how to teach somebody how to do a breathing exercise. In addition, you will be paired up with a partner that you guys will work together virtually or in person each week for a minimum of 60 minutes. Now, if that ends up being you get together for a 2-hour session once a month, that's no problem, but we're making sure to get that work in, because when you're working with your fellow teachers, you'll be learning the skills of both giving and receiving feedback. In terms of being a good teacher, a lot of being a good teacher is doing it. And the second part of that is the capacity to receive and incorporate feedback. That may be not incorporating feedback that's not helpful, and it may be incorporating feedback that's hard for you to hear, or simply that's helpful. When it comes to pricing, the total cost for the training is $3,999. If you sign up before August 20th, the training is $34.99. And the cash early bird price before August 20th is $32.99. And by cash, we literally mean dollar bills, not like a check. We have a payment plan available. It's 5 payments of $700 per month, and that has to start before the end of June. So the 5th payment would be completed by the 2nd in-person training. I have a few listed questions that I just want to cover first, and then I'll open it up and we can start to answer questions that folks that are on the call have. Okie dokie. Let's see, accommodations we covered. Someone asked about attendees staying together, or are there options for roommates? I would never share your personal information. I want you to know that with anybody else unless you requested it. So if Alexis and Amber and Brittany are all looking for a roommate and want to share their email address, I can connect the 3 of you. So maybe you could get a room together, absolutely, or share an Airbnb, no problem. Total capacity for the training, it will be no more than 25, but depending on the experience level of the people that sign up, we may keep it a little bit less than that. The general curriculum has to do with the course objectives that we shared earlier. One question about the format of the virtual training sessions is, would they be demonstration, lecture, or conversation? It will be a lot of lecture, but there will be a lot of opportunity for you to ask questions and even to test things out. So it will be sort of a blend of those things. Will we be provided with take-home materials that we can save and continue to study post-training? Yes, absolutely. So that's one of the things that we'll do as we go through. When you first sign up for the training, you'll get access to our group folder. And in there is, your training manual, your Welcome to Portsmouth guide, your class log, and a few other things. But as we go through and we have more materials, we'll introduce that new information in there. In addition, we'll work on building classes together. So there'll be a library of different classes in there that you can reflect on and utilize post-training, and that folder will be yours forever. I'm just going to let Elise into the call. Let's see. Will we have an opportunity to practice teaching a class during training? Absolutely. Welcome, Elise. Yeah, absolutely. That last weekend that we're all together, at the very least, will be an opportunity for everyone to teach, but there may be opportunities to teach earlier in the training, depending on how it's going. Is there an assessment, test, quiz, or feedback? There's not an official test. So as much as I love a good test, give me a test and then an A+, please. It won't be a part of this training, but there will be lots of feedback. So feedback is the work, because when you get out of training and you're teaching at your local studio, that's the way that you learn and grow. At every single class here at Blaze, I walk out of class, see the teachers who took it and say, do you have any feedback? Right? So we never know how things feel in every single person's body. And it's an incredible opportunity for you to continue to learn. Some of us are really bad at taking feedback, and this is a really great opportunity for growth. You're going to notice that it changes the rest of your life. One question I received was how much of this training is learning to teach versus deepening your own practice? And I will say this, when you begin to learn how to teach, you're going to understand what we've been doing in a very different way. And that allows you to change the way that you practice and the inputs you choose for your own body, or perhaps even the way you're executing a posture, a pose, or an exercise. There's a tremendous amount of learning that you are going to be able to integrate with yourself. And at the same time, this is a vocational teacher training. If you just want to like dive into yoga and meditate, go to a Vipassana training, spend a weekend at Kripalu, because we are going to spend a lot of time learning how to teach, learning how to project. And as a participant, those expectations are the same for you. So if there was sort of any kind of a feeling like I might be able to just sort of kick back and relax and not participate, I'm going to be honest, I don't want you here if you're not all in, right? I'm all in. I'm going to give you everything I have. And my expectation too is that you are all in. Will I be certified to teach at any studio? And do you have a network of studios that would be familiar with this training? So I have been in business here for 20 years. I've mentored over 150 teachers, and more than 24 of my teachers are studio owners around the world, from Singapore to Amsterdam to California. So yeah, we have a huge network in the hot yoga business of studios that work together. But let me just see if I'm hitting on any of the studios on this call. My sister is the owner of Queen City Yoga and Fitness. One of my best friends in the world is the owner of the studio. My close friend Emily Bean owns the Steam House Yoga and Fitness and has directly asked me if I would teach her potential new teachers to teach. We also work very closely with Sweet Heat down in Nashua, with the hot yoga studio in Manchester, New Hampshire, the studios in Portland and Boston. We're very close with the Yoga Factory folks in DC, Baltimore, Annapolis, and Pittsburgh. So yeah, there's lots of studios out there who are very familiar with these trainings. Maria down at Natick at Hometown Sweat, with Tracy out of St. Aligned in East Hampton. So if those are your studio owners, those are also my friends and colleagues that I've worked with for a very long time. In terms of, is this like a Yoga Alliance or a SCCM training? No, it is not. And I don't work with Yoga Alliance very particularly because they are an organization that was started to oversee yoga teacher trainings. And it was a great idea. The reason that they started, they were Iyengar teachers who wanted to standardize some of the instruction when somebody said they were a blank teacher. Unfortunately, what Yoga Alliance is today is if you're a teacher, you pay the money for them to say you're a teacher. And if you're a teacher training program, you fill out an application and you send them money every year for them to say you're a Yoga Alliance training, but there's zero oversight. There's no quality control. As a board member at the original Hot Yoga Association in California, we oversee all of the teacher trainings that participate. We participate in mediation when there's challenges and problems. We help them to create their graduation standards and make sure that people are following through. So I would never just give money to Yoga Alliance. I think it's, to be honest, a bunch of bullshit. And that's that. Okay, one more thing. In what way did your practice change when you became a teacher? Your practice changes forever. You'll never not be a teacher again. That really can't happen. Even when you are, on vacation in Costa Rica taking a class on the beach and nobody knows you're a yoga teacher, you're still thinking, maybe integrating things. It changes forever, and the students see you in a different way. So you have to definitely be good about setting boundaries. And then the last question is, what do you wish you knew before becoming a yoga teacher? I wish there was a training like this that I could have learned something from. I started in the field of hot yoga. I learned a script. I started teaching right away, and I knew nothing about yoga or teaching or the human body. And all of that has been like by hook or by crook, tooth and nail, finding a way to learn that information and find people who could teach me that information. So I wish I had known, I wish I had a better option for a training. And yeah, that's about that. So I'm just going to jump over to the chat and see. Okay, well, there's one question about IHP. IHP, I adore Gabby. She is another colleague of mine, and was a great start for a lot of original hot yoga studios to move from teaching just hot yoga to beginning to teach fitness. It's a very rudimentary training with very little information about real strength training. It's pretty much a training that will help people get sort of some fundamental cardiovascular fitness. And this is, I wouldn't say a move away from the concept, because Gabby does tremendous work in terms of teaching people how to teach and teach an engaging and elegant class, and to be a good presenter and to kind of get out of your head. Aaron, we did talk about payment plans, and we'll have a recording of that later. This is the next level, right? IHP is a beginning fundamental for existing yoga teachers to get into the field of fitness. And this training will take that and dive a lot deeper into like developing programming. And it is not going to be a training that's going to teach you to teach legs cardio, arms cardio, something like that. Okay, another question, what if you have a direct personal conflict with one of the weekends? Obviously, we want you guys to do everything you possibly can to be at all of the events that we have. The weekends will be recorded in case something happens, because things happen. You know, your kid falls off the playground and breaks an arm and you've got to jet out early. So we will do our best to record stuff. We won't, if the recording doesn't work or it doesn't take, or this terrible sound, there's no way for us to replicate that for you. And the one weekend that I would just say is important to make sure that you're a part of would be the kickoff weekend, the 5 days, because we're going to go over a tremendous amount of information. All right, so Jalen, will you just write down that Alexis wants to be bumped up with somebody? We'll just start a list of folks who might be interested. If somebody has a question that you'd like to ask straight out, like you want to just talk. Amazing. Kat, I love what you had to say. So Kat asked if I could speak to imposter syndrome and not feeling confident in your own practice, but feeling called to learning and learning to teach the new knowledge. If you didn't feel nervous about teaching, we would think that there was something wrong. Some of our best teachers were the most frightened teachers when they went to training. Let me tell you a story about Jalen. Do you like to take Jalen's classes, Kat? Jalen's a great teacher, right? Everybody from around here and a lot of folks from Upper Valley know that. My husband, Jalen, called me from teacher training and he said, just so you know, I'm not teaching when I get back. Like, I can't do this. You know, he struggled in every single posture clinic, struggled to get the words out of his mouth. And when he stepped into the room to teach his first class, absolutely blew it away, blew everybody out of the water. I'm going to stop sharing so folks can see themselves. So that's going to be part of what you get to address, you know, and that's, I think there's a lot of women on this call. That's something that as women that we tend to have to face a little bit more often than cis men. And it's a great opportunity for you to let that go, because more often than not, I have found that the folks who are the most scared are the most competent, and you've just got to do it. It definitely won't be next year. I'll tell you that much. Somebody said I'll join if you do it again in 6 months. I will not do it in 6 months. We'll definitely do the training again because it's needed. I would say no earlier than 18 months from now, maybe 2 years from now. I can't exactly say, but we'll see how this one goes, right? If anybody would like to unmute yourself and ask a question, you are more than welcome to do so. Did you get any other questions while I was on this? Yes, just for our records, CPG, will you just tell me who you are or just text us directly so we know that you were here? I don't want to reach out to anybody that was here and say, hey, we missed you when you were actually here.
Hi, Sarah. This is Laura. Sorry, I'm signed in under my company account.
It's Laura. It's totally fine. Yes, Alexis, I sound like Marla, and so Marla also sounds like our sister Gina. There's 3 of us, so wait till you're in Savasana and you're like, what is happening? Is Marla down here?
Sarah, this is Erin McGrail. I came super late, so you may have already answered this, but I noticed in the beginnings, the first few, there was at least one Thursday, if not a couple Thursdays. You really suggest, you really want to be, we need to be there for those.
You definitely need to be on those calls for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's important. Those are going to be where we do the lectures. So like we were talking about before you got on the call, Aaron, just that this, if you're going to do this, this is the time that you block out the time, you let the family know you're going to need their support so that you can get through this and devote your time to that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. It's great to see everyone from all these different studios. And I do know that you're studio owners, so all my people here on who are existing members, your studio owners are very excited that you joined the call. All right, I don't see anything new in the chat, so we're going to wrap it up. If after the call you feel like you still had a few questions or you were too shy to ask online, you're welcome to email us. We're here. We're here to help you and excited to get started on this journey. Have a great night, everybody.
Hey,
Oh,
Sarah,
another question? Yeah, absolutely.
quick question. Hi, I'm Heather.
Hi.
Once certified, how long is that good for, or how often do you have to recertify or do training?
That's a great question. And we're also used to that. You know, I will tell you, in this field, in the field of yoga and the field of fitness, all of those types of certifications are completely arbitrary. So like if somebody wants you to come back and do more continuing education, they're just going to set a standard for you. When you get a certification from me, you finish the program, you will hold that certification forever. In terms of like, what should you do with that? I mean, if you want to be good at what you do, you should continue to just keep learning. And there are so many great ways that you could learn. Like you could be a yoga teacher and you could attend a 5-hour coaching cue session that just helps you like refine your language. Or maybe you want to join a kinesiology class at your local college. All of those things will help to expand it. So what I would say is this is the beginning and continue to learn for the rest of your life. But this is not a program where like you're not going to be allowed to teach anymore. If you're teaching great classes, you're going to be able to keep teaching because you teach for people who appreciate you. And I know that people like Megan and people like Marla and people like Emily can see it in the classes that you guys are, that their staff are teaching. And those are the people that get more work. So people who are all in, those are the people that we want to hire and that we want to keep on our team.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Sarah, I have a question, if we've got a little more time. And
absolutely.
Apologies, because I came late and if you said this, but I'm really curious about, and I know that it varies depending on the studio, but curious about just what people are compensated if they teach part-time versus full-time.
Absolutely. So that's a great question and great to have an honest conversation about it. So in the field of yoga and fitness, the pay is garbage. I mean, you can go to get a weekend training at CrossFit and they will pay you $20 a class to teach and you still have to clean the toilet after. So where you teach really makes a difference. And personally, I am a Burnocrat. And I was born and raised in Vermont and always will be. And I believe in paying people a livable wage. There's no one at my studio that makes less than $15 an hour. And all of our teachers start at getting compensated at $40 per class or higher, the longer that you teach for them. If you work for me, we have a 401k plan for our teachers. There's paid vacation time. And I just want to be honest, that doesn't happen in the rest of the world. Most people who teach at gyms and small yoga studios get paid tiny amounts of money and sometimes per head. So like if you're a new teacher and nobody comes to your class, you make $12 for planning and teaching and showing up for a class. And I know that my colleagues whose clients are on this call too, they have the same ethics that I do. I don't think that you can be a leader in the field and particularly of yoga and do that ethically. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good. I don't see anybody else raising hands or any typing. So we'll go ahead and close up. Thanks everyone for being on here. Again, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email. Have a great night.